Good evening, everybody. If I call the meeting to order. I'm Councillor Ian Edwards. I'm Leader of the Council and I am Chairman of Cabinet. Ordinary pre-meeting safety notices. If the alarm sounds, we will be evacuating. I notice that the very great majority, in fact just all but one of us, are very familiar with this building. We know the way out. Members of the public, we will happily escort you, but the far exit is the most convenient one, is the way you came out. But there's also some behind us. Mobile phones, please can I ask everybody make sure they're turned to silent and their devices are kept mute. And we will now move into the agenda. Mark, agenda item 1, apologies for absence, please.
Thank you very much. All Cabinet members are present, but the Chief Executive has given his apologies.
Thank you very much. Noted. Item 2, declarations of interest. Colleagues, are there any additional declarations of interest for this meeting? None. Thank you, Mark. Item 3 is to approve the minutes of the last Cabinet meeting. Colleagues, they are in your pack. Do you agree with them?
Agreed.
Thank you. Item 4 is to confirm that the items of business marked Part 1 will be considered in public and those in Part 2 in private. There is quite an extensive agenda of Part 2 items, but we have provided a précis report to facilitate transparency where we can. We will break the meeting between Part 1 and Part 2. We will not only close off the YouTube link, we will ask members of the public to retire. So we'll now move to item 5, the agenda proper. Houses of multiple occupation, agenda item 5. Consultation on additional licensing controls. Councillor Tuckworth, thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Cabinet colleagues, I am pleased to be updating you this evening on the additional licensing policy for HMOs and the planned public consultation. This evening I am asking Cabinet to note the consultation process and the approach in setting out the potential for a new policy. Hillingdon Council is committed to resident safety, well-being and quality of life. Unlicensed HMOs can affect communities and the Council wants to understand the full picture before deciding on any future policy. Evidence shows that some HMOs are currently unlicensed or poorly managed, with hazards and community impacts. The draft policy sets out proposed conditions and fees, and it is a consultation document only, not a decision. The consultation will run from the 31st of October this year to the 11th of January 2026, engaging with residents, landlords, associations and organisations with a stake in local housing. Hillingdon will listen to all views before returning final proposals to Cabinet in February 2026, ensuring residents' voices are central to any future decision. Cabinet, this is about Hillingdon taking decisive action for our residents, ensuring every home is safe, every community is stronger, and our neighbourhoods are thriving under effective local leadership. I therefore ask Cabinet to approve the 4 recommendations set out on page 28 and to also note the appendices 1, 1A, 2 and 3. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Tugwell. It's good to see this matter finally coming to what we hope to be a successful conclusion. Colleague, are the 4 recommendations agreed?
Agreed.
Agenda item 6, the annual report of children's safeguarding arrangements. Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Leader. And as you suggested, this is agenda item 6. The annual report summarises the work undertaken by Hillingdon Safeguarding Children's Partnership to support and safeguard Hillingdon's children and their families for the year 2024 to 2025. The annual report provides an overview of the actions taken across the partnership to meet an increasing complexity of needs for those children requiring safeguarding support and intervention, and reflects on a year of progress. The vision, I will just state out for you, which is the Safeguarding Children's Partnership vision, is for every child and young person to be and feel safe, enjoy good physical, emotional and mental health, have pride in their unique identities, feel that they belong and have opportunities to thrive. The 3 statutory partners work alongside other relevant agencies in achieving this goal. The 3 statutory partners are the local authority, the police and the health ICB, the Integrated Care Board, who share equal responsibility for the overarching priorities that the board sets. In 2024-2025, the focus was on contextual safeguarding, child sexual abuse, educational safeguarding and transitional safeguarding, which continues to remain as priorities. The Safeguarding Children's Partnership's priorities for 2025-2026 do include the strengthening of the multi-agency response to child sexual abuse. The Council now has 3 trained child sexual abuse leads embedded within the children's services. Embedding the Borough's approach to transitional safeguarding, looking at services and integration and risk mitigations. Enhancing the safeguarding response to multi-agency risk to harm outside the home as part of the MAROTH framework pilot. Just another set of abbreviations for you. And continuing to promote the voice of children and young people, ensuring their lived experiences informs our practices and approach, and aligning the partnership activity with the JTI, which is the Joint Targeted Area Inspection, which we get inspected on through Ofsted and other organisations every few years, and ensuring that the readiness to the findings are, that we're able to be ready to respond to the findings of the report. This will be done by promoting and developing an improved multi-agency data and information sharing practice across the Safeguarding Partnership to produce multi-agency collaboration in children's assessments and plans. The 2025-2026 targets are listed on page 44 of the annual report, and if you haven't read it, I would suggest you do. It's a really good report. The report is for noting this evening, and the recommendations are on page 116 of this agenda, and I therefore move. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It is a very good report, and I particularly welcome the comments within the report of our Alan Caton, the chairman, who says, "I have found a strong partnership that is open to scrutiny and challenge, and one that strives to continually learn and improve practice. The partnership is one that's built on high support, high challenge, and where difficult conversations are encouraged." I think that is a very warm endorsement of the work that's going on. I congratulate our partnership for doing it, and thank you very much for bringing the report. Colleague, is the report noted?
Noted.
Thank you. Agenda item 7, the annual report of adult safeguarding arrangements. Councillor Palmer.
Thank you, Leader. This goes alongside our children's report. It's very important that we safeguard our residents, adult and children. The comprehensive report before Cabinet tonight provides a summary of work undertaken by Hillingdon Safeguarding Adults Board, forming part of Hillingdon Safeguarding Partnership. The recommendations are on page 166. Essentially, that the annual report, an assurance that the partnership continues to provide leadership and scrutiny of safeguarding for Hillingdon residents be noted. The way in which the partnership has responded to the challenges posed by changing local, national and international context be noted, and the strategic priorities for 25-26 be noted. They are, the priorities for the following year are safeguarding adults with complex needs, especially rough sleeping and or high-risk substance abuse, cuckooing and exploitation, engagement with adult carers with lived experience of services, effective use of the Mental Capacity Act 2005, and to develop collaboration across strategic partnerships with particular focus on safeguarding adults affected by domestic abuse. The report before us has highlighted that neglect and acts of omission remained the most common factor, followed by financial and material abuse, then psychological abuse. No inquiries in respect of sexual exploitation, with 4 considering risk of discriminatory abuse and 8 in respect of modern slavery. I would like to pay thanks to our partners. Our training programme has delivered 2,447 sessions of professional development, and the feedback for that was particularly good. Particular thanks again must go to the report authors Susie Gladish and Sene Nida. Also to Alan Caton, OBE, the independent scrutineer, whose positive comments the leader has read out, but I will read out again because I think it's positive that it goes across both children and adults. I have not come across any areas of poor practice or weakness in service provision. There is a strong leadership from the ELG and a clear sense of joint and equal responsibility from the 3 safeguarding partners. The partnership is one that is built on high support, high challenge, and where difficult conversations are encouraged. There is much in this report to be proud of as a borough and as a partnership, and like my colleague Councillor O'Brien, I would recommend that anybody who is interested in how we safeguard our adults looks at this report. I so move the recommendations, Leader. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And in common with the previous report on children, I think it is worthy of residents looking at this and just seeing the extent of work that goes on to ensure that all of our residents, whether young or old, are properly safeguarded and are helped to develop and lead full and fulfilling lives. The case studies in the adults one, for me, are very powerful. It just shows the diversity of work and the partnership that is effective in Hillingdon, and I congratulate the partnership on that. Colleagues, are the recommendations agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. Okay, item 8, the Temporary Accommodation Action Plan. Councillor Tuckle.
Thank you, Leader. Colleagues, this is an important report this evening as it provides Cabinet with the second quarterly update on the delivery of the Temporary Accommodation Strategy and Action Plan that was first approved in February of this year. Our focus remains clear: to reduce reliance on costly nightly accommodation, expand access to affordable homes, and to ensure that every household in need of sustainable pathway out of homelessness. Good progress is being made across all 4 of the objectives of the plan: manage demand, increasing move-on rates, reducing costs, and expanding the supply of new housing. Our governance is strong, with the weekly officer reviews and monthly oversight meetings that I chair alongside the corporate director and senior managers. In terms of managing the demand, we have seen a reduction in new placements into temporary accommodation compared to last year. Prevention work is strengthening, particularly in cases where evictions by family or friends can be avoided, but we continue to face sustained pressure from private landlord evictions and new arrivals linked to Heathrow Airport. For expanding our housing options, we are on track to meet our annual target of securing 350 private rented tenancies, with 175 achieved by the end of September. A new landlord forum launched in July is helping to build stronger partnerships with landlords and promote a refreshed package of incentives. Further work over the next 6 months will increase access to private rented housing to help move families on from a temporary accommodation. In relation to reducing costs, the rent cap initiative continues to deliver results. We've reduced the number of cases above the rent cap from 326 to just 8 in phase 1 of the programme, and we're now applying a further £5 a night reduction through phase 2. We've also secured 87 leased homes at Fraserwater Place, with more in the pipeline, moving us away from expensive nightly lets. For increasing social housing supply, the acquisition programme is producing well within the target of 200 properties on track to be achieved ahead of schedule. However, we have a funding reality. I am pleased to report steady progress is important, but it's important to be frank about the scale of the challenge. Despite our local success in tightening costs and boosting supply, the underlying pressures are being driven by a severe national funding shortfall. London councils have identified a £740 million gap between what local authorities are spending on homelessness and what government is providing, and Hillingdon is feeling that gap acutely. As a port authority, we are also carrying additional pressures from arrivals from UK nationals through Heathrow Airport. These costs are significant, unpredictable, and not sufficiently met by any government funding stream. The council is doing everything possible to protect residents and reduce dependency on costly nightly accommodation, but we cannot continue to absorb these pressures indefinitely without fair and sustainable funding from central government. For our next priorities over the next quarter, our focus will be to increase the number of private rented homes available to prevent homelessness and move families out of temporary accommodation. We will also complete the next phase of the rent cap reductions and continue the acquisition programme to meet our housing targets by March 2026. Colleagues, in closing, this report demonstrates progress in a very challenging environment. Our action plan is delivering real results, lower costs, faster prevention, and more families moving into permanent homes. Whilst national pressures persist, this administration is taking decisive, practical action to protect both our residents and the council's financial position. The numbers are clear. This council is doing its job. It's time that this government and its ministers did theirs. Colleagues, I ask that you note the quarterly report as outlined on page 210. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Tuckwell. This is a welcome report. It shows a considerable amount of activity, effective activity, happening in the borough to manage the demand. The demand is as a consequence of many, many issues, and of course London Council's lobbies for additional funding for the homelessness crisis that all local authorities, London authorities in particular, are wrestling with. The point that you make, and I think that is worth repeating and emphasising, is that the welcome new funding formula that's coming forward, and then does need to be recognition and credit that a new funding formula is coming forward, will not include any of the demand arising out of Heathrow. That continues to be an unfunded burden placed on this borough. It's one that our residents have to shoulder alone at this moment in time, and is a fight that we as a Conservative administration will continue with government to ensure fair funding, including Heathrow Airport. Colleagues, are the recommendations agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Item 9, Policy Framework, consultation on the Community Safety Strategy. Councillor Lavery.
Thank you, Leader. The Community Safety Strategy is proposed to go out for consultation, for a 6-week consultation, to then return to Cabinet in January, but requires adoption by the full Council, which we plan to do in February of next year. By way of background, the Community Safety Strategy is responsibility of the Safer Hillingdon Partnership. It is a partnership which is led by the Council, but includes the police, fire brigade, probation, and representatives from adults and children's services in the Council, as well as the Council Community Safety Team. The draft priorities set out in the appendix to the report are safer neighbourhoods, violence against women and girls, serious violence including knife crime, and preventing harm and safeguarding communities. These have been underpinned by statistical information in a strategic needs assessment, and those are also covered within this report. I ask colleagues to agree that this may go out for consultation.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lavery. The context of community safety, I think one of the things that needs to be said here is nothing is more symbolic of community safety than a police station, and how delighted we are as a borough that the representations of the council and community have been listened to, and the plans for the closure of Hayes Police Station have been amended. I think that is exceedingly welcome and goes a long way to ensure community safety, particularly in that neighbourhood. Colleagues, have agreed that the consultation strategy, the strategy is consulted on?
Agreed.
Thank you. Item 10, Transport for London Local Implementation Plan, the annual spending submission. Councillor Tuckwell.
Thank you, Leader. Cabinet colleagues, this agenda item is about our TfL Local Implementation Plan funding bid for 2026-27, a vital opportunity to secure significant external investment to improve transport across the borough. I am seeking your approval for the proposed programme and delegation for final submission ahead of the 31st of October deadline. This funding is worth around £2 million and will help us deliver a broad package of improvements that put safety and connectivity first. We're focusing on making our major corridors safer, with better walking and cycling routes, upgrading junctions and crossings to reduce accidents and support active travel, introducing bus priority measures to improve reliability and accessibility, and investing in borough-wide Safer Streets programme, starting with key areas in Uxbridge. All of this builds on our existing transport and cycling strategies and reflects our local priorities, creating safer, greener and more connected neighbourhoods. There's no direct cost on the council, but the benefits to residents are clear: safer journeys, cleaner air and more sustainable travel options. So I'm recommending that Cabinet approves the bid in principle and delegates authority for final submission. This is about securing investment delivering improvements and ensuring Hillingdon continues to move forward. I therefore ask Cabinet to approve the two recommendations as set out on page 250. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tuckwell. Are those two recommendations agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. Agenda item 12, the Better Care Fund, Section 75 Agreement. Councillor Palmer. Sorry, and number 11, the Strategic Climate Action Plan. Councillor Lavery.
Thank you, Leader. The report before you tonight sets out the progress report for the 2024-2025 period and follows the Council declaring a climate emergency in 2020. The report updates the actions we have already taken and contains details of new actions through to 2028. I would ask you to note the reduction to carbon emissions, particularly at the Civic Centre, where further work is ongoing, where we have achieved a 34% reduction over 5 years. Work continues to monitor and reduce emissions from our fleet. In terms of other matters, Hillingdon has the second largest tree canopy in London, and we have been planting further trees, which of course gives us already good carbon sequestration, but opportunities for more. In light of changing weather patterns and in particular increased rain intensity events, we have also been able to undertake some flood mitigation measures using natural means and improving tree cover as part of them. So we will achieve a benefit in terms of flood risk, but also the climate. The report is for noting, and I would request Cabinet to note it.
Thank you very much. Cabinet, before we note it, I'd just like to add, I very much hope we continue to enjoy the extensive tree canopies and green spaces, and that they are not threatened by the Mayor's expansion plans. Colleagues, the recommendations agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Agenda item 12, the Better Care Fund, Section 75 Agreements. Councillor Palmer.
Thank you, Leader. This report seeks authority to enter into an agreement with the North West London Integrated Care Board under Section 75 of the National Health Service Act 2006 to give legal effect to the financial and partnership arrangements within the 25-26 Better Care Fund. This is, I'm sure we're all aware, but I will just say it's a national initiative that's been in place since 2015, which allows the Council and the Integrated Care Board to have pooled budgets and relocated based on approved plans. The focus of the Hillingdon's 25-26 plan is improving care outcomes for older people, adults living with long-term conditions, and people with learning disabilities and or autism. A lot of this work is done to ensure that our residents are discharged from hospital with the correct equipment and support to enable them to live happier lives, feeling better coming from hospital. The recommendations are twofold, and they are on page, I cannot see the page number, but effectively it's, thank you very much. You will note that I'm asking for this to begin from the 1st of April 2025. I do just need to say that the delay is partly due to the ICB reorganisation plus difficulties with the discharge funding and our partner, but essentially I'm asking for the recommendations as explained on the next page. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much. And it's not unusual that there's a retrospective aspect to these recommendations. It's been my experience as leader that every year they're late, it becoming less late, though it has to be said. And also what is not included within this report is the increasing coming together between health and the council, with them jointly working from our buildings and the scope for further co-location here. I do believe we are at the dawn of a much closer relationship with our health, and we will see far more fruitful benefits of that coming forward in the future years. Colleagues, the recommendations agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. Agenda item 13, the monthly council budget monitoring report. Councillor Gollard.
Thank you, Leader. This item deals with the monitoring of the projected outturn for the Council's finances for the year ending 31st of March 2026, as it stood at month 5, which is the 31st of August 2025. The report set out on pages 377 to 399 of this evening's order of business. For the General Fund revenue account, further pressures against budget since month 4 of £8.1 million have been identified. And this will take us to an overall projected adverse position for the full 25-26 financial year of £30.2 million. As I will expand on later, expenditure pressure has been driven by increased demand for key statutory services such as adults and children's social care, homelessness and asylum costs. If exceptional financial support capitalisation of expenditure as requested from MHCLG were not to be provided, this would give rise to an overdrawn reserves position of £24.9 million. It must be emphasised that the pressure on reserves is very largely driven by underfunding from central government over the years, and also by this administration's policy of maintaining both council tax and fees and charges at some of the very lowest levels in outer London in order to provide high quality services at a low cost to our residents. Additional funding has also been requested from central government in order to mitigate the exceptionally high level of costs incurred in supporting asylum seekers who arrive in the borough through Heathrow Airport. And indeed, Councillor Tuckwell has already made quite considerable reference to this. The results of the Fair Funding Review should be known in December, and there certainly are positive indicators there that past underfunding suffered by Hillingdon will be addressed positively for 26-27 and future years. Furthermore, discussions with MHCLG as to our request for exceptional financial support are proceeding positively. Major elements within the projected full-year overspend of £30.2 million are as follows. Adult social care and health additional costs of £9.8 million, which represents substantial increased demand together with inflationary cost pressures. £5.5 million in respect of increased demand for temporary accommodation to mitigate homelessness. £1.9 million in terms of place, which is predominantly a shortfall in anticipated income from green waste subscriptions and waste income. £3.9 million children and young people services, largely being increased demand for residential care. Corporate services increased costs of £400,000 and £3.9 million in finance costs arising largely from increased interest burdens and a higher spend in terms of agency staffing costs. I've projected savings of £38.8 million at month 5, £23.5 million, which is 61%, has either been fully delivered or is on track for delivery. Of the balance, £13.2 million will in fact be delivered during the course of 26-27, and only £1.9 million of this total target has needed to be written out. An updated assessment of capital expenditure, both for the General Fund and for the Housing Revenue Account, will be conducted on the usual quarterly basis and reported on for month 6. Turning to the Housing Revenue Account, this continues to maintain in-year parity with budget, albeit that this comprises an adverse variance in rental income of £400,000 and an increase in expected operating costs of £500,000, all of which is offset by reduced capital financing costs of £900,000. However, it must be noted that considerable success has been achieved in the acquisition of additional housing stock, way exceeding expectations both from buybacks, and this has made it necessary to redeploy existing capital budgets to meet this success, and this is referred to by me in Part B of this report. Colleagues will recall that last month I also referred to the successes in this area achieved under the new Madison Brook contract. Turning to the dedicated schools grant, the in-year deficit for 25-26 at month 5 continues to be projected at £12.5 million, and so far as previously reported, reflects an improvement of £2.5 million in the in-year deficit reported for 24-25. The cumulative deficit on the dedicated schools grant is therefore continuing to be projected at £78.4 million. However, it must be noted that a letter commending and praising the progress made by Hillingdon in reducing the in-year deficit has been received from the Department for Education. Leader, there are 2 recommendations here. First of all, recommendation number 1 asks the Cabinet to note this report as far as the performance against budget is concerned, and that's set out on page 378 of the Order of Business. Recommendation 2, detailed on page 398, deals with a number of other financially oriented decisions, and I particularly want to highlight items A, B and C, which seek, by way of transfer and by way of forward phasing, to create the required capital budgets in order to address the aforementioned success in increasing housing stock. And this will add some £52 million to the capital spend within the housing revenue account during the course of the current financial year. I therefore move both recommendations. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much, Councillor Goddard. I don't think a week goes by without there being some news story somewhere, often coming from London councils, about the pressure on local authority budgets. And this is not a picture that we enjoy as London's leaders. It's certainly one that is uncomfortable in Hillingdon, the pressures that are on us, but it is not unique to this borough. We welcome the commitment to a fairer funding formula and look forward to that being implemented as quickly as we can, which we expect to address most of these issues. I'm grateful for the update. Colleagues, are the recommendations agreed, with particular noting those in part 2 of the report?
Agreed.
Thank you. We now turn to agenda item 14, which is a public preview of confidential reports. Members of the public, this is a report that we are not obliged to provide, but we do so with the intention of providing more information about those items that we will now consider in part 2 of the meeting. The decisions are reached under each item of part 2 is published, but of course the conversations are not. So we are now going to break the YouTube link and ask members of the public to retire and move into part 2. Thank you.